Welcome to my channel and an art journal tutorial. This one's a little bit different because we are going to first create this colorful and patterned masterboard and then turn it into a themed mini zine little booklet. So I am going to use some of my own supplies. These are stencils and stamps that I created. I'm spraying black paint on a 5x7 gel plate, and I'm using that kind of like a stamp pad, and I'm using my stamps with the acrylic paint. And I'm going to start off with a bunch of black. I want that contrast peeking through. I have in mind a very colorful, bright page, and I love the contrast of black with those bold, bright colors. If you'd like a video showing you how to create stencils and stamps like you see me using here, please put that in the comment section below. Here I'm using my fine line brush and I'm kind of doing a semic writing or a version of scribbling. Again, this is just adding interest in those beginning layers. This page is going to go through many ugly stages. So I want bright colors. So I've got yellow, quinacridone magenta, deep violet, and turquoise. And I'm mixing them right out of the tube. I'm putting them on my fingers and blending them wet and wet. Now you can do that if the colors are close to each other on the color wheel. They're going to mix and they're going to make a fairly nice color. However, I don't want to mix the purple and the yellow because I'm going to get a brownish color. I don't want to mix certain colors to avoid. The ones where I like the colors, like the quinacridone magenta and the yellow, making an orange there that I like, I'm going to do that on purpose. My goal here is to just create a very happy, colorful page. I want all the colors on every section of this masterboard. Now, when I started this masterboard, I didn't know that I was going to turn the page and use it in a mini zine, a themed mini zine. I was just creating it, and like many masterboards, you can then use it to as an Insta background for an art journal page. You can put it on ATCs or iCads. Pretty much anything that you want. You can also turn it into collage papers. And usually, since I'm doing this on a fairly large piece of paper, there's enough for several projects. So if I only use part of this, the rest of it would go into my files to be used at a later date. And it's a great way to build your stash and have things at the ready. So you can see I'm just mixing the colors there. Some of the colors are more translucent, which means you're going to see more of the black peeking through. Some are more opaque, which means it's going to block off more of the black. And knowing though which ones over time is kind of helpful. So I'm grabbing my stencils and I want to add some more layers. So I've grabbed white and this heart flower stencil that I created. And I'm just filling in all areas. Remember, when you're doing a masterboard, the difference between that and a background is with a background, you've got your eye on the composition, where you might want to leave white space or how the colors are going to flow. But when you're doing a masterboard, you really don't have a set idea about what it will be used for. So your goal is to get color and pattern and layers in all different quadrants. And some of the fun of masterboard is you don't know what you're going to end up with, and you end up with some really nice surprises. So here I'm using bright aqua, and this is a very opaque color, and I love how it's popping on here. I'm also trying to use some stencils that have different scales. This one's very fine. Some of the other ones were more solid, and having that variety in there. makes for an interesting background. So this was an older stencil that I cut, and I have several patterns on here, a selection, and I put them all on one. This one I didn't cut by hand, I cut with my Silhouette Cameo. And I'm adding some black. Remember, I liked the black and the bold. Now some of that black that was on that initial layer has been pushed back, and I'm just replacing it and making this in the forefront. I'm turning my stencil, getting the flow to go each way. And I'm absolutely loving this bright, bold, colorful background masterboard. This is a trivet. It's a silicone trivet, and I'm using it as a stamp. There are two different patterns on either side, and I'm rubbing the black acrylic paint on it with a makeup sponge and then stamping. So every mark on this page has been made with either DIY stencils and stamps that I've created or mark making tools. Here's a shelf liner. And I'm rubbing the paint on and stamping with it. So you can get some wonderful patterns and textures without buying pre-manufactured products. Adding a little bit of white and brightness into here. Again, you want to build that contrast into your background page. You can follow the same techniques and doing. A colorful background like this works really well with the negative painting technique, but we're not going there today. So I'm going to fold this. I'm doing this as a hot dog fold. Now I'm going to turn this into a mini zine. I've seen several videos on this lately, and I thought I need to give this a try. So I'm matching the corners. Now my page wasn't perfectly square, so I do end up trimming some of it to get a straight edge. And then we do a hot dog fold. And if you can't follow my instructions here, if you just Google it, you'll see a lot of videos showing the very specifics. And then you fold in each half again. And I'm pressing to get a good crease there. Now, of course, I've let my paints completely dry before I move to this stage. So you see we have 8 quadrants. And each of these measure 5 by 3 each section. But you can use any size paper, just your pages are going to be simple. So we fold it in half, and we're going to cut from the middle, from the folded edge to the first intersection, just like you saw me doing. Now we're going to fold it in like that. And here's where we're just going to sharpen the folds, press it in to shape this book, Mini-Zine. So you just do some fidgeting, and it may not be perfectly lined up. It may not have all straight edges. So I do play with this a while, basically shaping it, but I'm quite happy in the end. And I'm looking at the orientation of it. Which one do I want to be the cover? Which one, because I can go up or down at this stage. Now you can use the 7 by 5, the whole thing, or I can put separate pages. So I can decide which or how I want to treat this or what I want to do with this now that it's in this shape. I'm choosing to use the black and white images, the Crazy Birds from Tim Holtz. as my focal image. They were in my stash, already stamped and cut out, but you can use any white focal image. Now, this is my binder of sentiments. These are the sentiment packs that I've created, and they are available for purchase. Just email me at creativekatie@gmail.com. All the quotes that I use in this book come from the BU themed pack. So I printed them out and I cut them into the rectangular shapes. Now I know I'm going to alter these to fit the focal image and the page that I'm going to use them on, but I want to get them out so I can addition them on the page. So you can use the crazy birds like I am. You can print out black and white clip art butterflies. You can do dragonflies. You can do flowers. You can do anything. I'm choosing to do the black and white because I like the contrast. And here's a picture of what the butterflies would look like. They would look perfect on this background too. So now I'm going to addition the sentiments with the focal image and whatever happens to have been on the page. And I'm matching things up. Now I take a sentiment and I can cut it, I can leave it in the rectangle as it was. I can cut it apart. I can fussy cut it. I can leave a border. I can not leave a border. I can colorize them. Here I'm fussy cutting the script stamp, which is something that I often do when I have the script. I'm leaving a little bit of white, and I really want to do that because on this background, it's very colorful. That's why I'm not colorizing the crazy birds as well. I want that contrast, and I just thought that they would stand out better. And you're going to see me dealing with the different sentiments in different ways. And you're also going to know that every one of these sentiments, there are a mixture of fonts, they are different fonts. So when you do it in a themed book like this, you're getting variety on your pages and you're adding another element with your sentiment because that in itself is a little bit of art. So this one says, no one is you. That's your superpower. And once I'm happy with the orientation, I am going to glue down the sentiment and the crazy bird with my liquid matte medium. Once you have this mini zine, you can do a page a day. Just add, go and tweak it. And if you're short on time and all you have is 15 minutes, that's probably enough time if you have the focal image and the quotes all ready to go to finish the page. So here, I'm thinking, oh, I could just use both sides and put a bigger rectangular quote on there. Now, a lot of the quotes in the themed packs, which the BU comes from, there's also Perseverance, Change, and Believe pack. They are the perfect size for a 5x7 and even down to an ATC, some of them. And while my focal image is the same on each page, I want to add a little bit of difference using different quotes and organizing in them or setting up the composition a little bit different. This one says, put yourself at the top of your to-do list. So I thought it would be cute for the little guy to stand on top of his to-do list. The other one says, you have to be odd to be number one. So these are kind of affirmations all about being you and self-empowerment. Now, every one of these pages in my mini-zine could be done as a separate, larger art journal page as well. And you can see how I'm cutting apart the sentiment and I'm additioning it. Do I like this? Do I like this? If I'm unsure, I will grab my phone and take a picture of it and then look at it that way. It gives a different perspective. So I was going to do double page, 2 single pages, but then I decided, I really like this saying, don't be afraid to show your true colors. So I thought, well, what happens if I fold it, put it in the center, and put 2 birds? And I chose this page because this one has, more than any of the others, all the colors of the rainbow on it. Remember, when you're making a masterboard and folding the zine, you're not exactly sure what's going to be in each section. So here I am cutting the sentiments again and arranging it. And I'm thinking, okay, that bottom text is a little it's too small. It's not showing up enough. So I'm going with this one. Go ahead, underestimate me. Now, all the leftover sentiments, I'm going to put in a cellophane bag that I got from one of the things that I purchased, and I saved them, and I'm going to label it BU. So now I know if I want a quote, I can just go through that. It's ready, it's cut out, it's in my stash. And then I decided I'm going to attempt to glue this down. I wasn't sure how this works, and I definitely didn't do it the easiest way possible. I think I would try to put glue on the whole back and then work very quickly to assemble it. But here I just kind of kept reaching in and adding more glue, and that worked too. But I would use a glue stick as opposed to using matte medium or some very wet adhesive. You could also use double-sided tape. Now that the book's all assembled, I need to finish each page. And so just like an art journal page, I'm edging it with black acrylic paint on a makeup sponge. And then I'm going in with my angle brush and acrylic paint using the floating acrylic technique. And I like doing both. You could do one or not the other as you see fit. This is a good project to practice your floating acrylic techniques because it's not as precise as, some pages, and you're going to get a lot of practice because we're also going to shade around the sentiments and the birds. Now remember, everything here has a good coat of matte medium on top of it. So that has turned it into a non-porous surface, which means if I make a mistake, I can easily go in and with a baby wipe and get rid of it. And it's also not going to soak into the paper and discolor the paper because I've sealed it with that process. You can see just this little bit of shading adds so much. That's the finishing. You could also use your pit pens and go around the outside and smudge it with your hands if you're working on a non-porous surface. And that would be permanent as well. Since this is a book and you're going to hold it and flip pages, I don't recommend using charcoal because it's going to and if you do use charcoal, you'll need to just spray it with a fixative. So there's always a workaround. Now I painted the beaks of the birds. One of the birds actually had their beak painted. And now I'm just going in and adding a little bit of orange on the page so that it works. Some of the pages didn't have orange in them, just luck of the draw. And I just wanted that to read together so that it all worked. So here I'm just rubbing a little bit of orange on. It's me being picky with the details. Now some of the white I wanted in a few places, so I'm coming in with this and I'm stamping. So if you wanted a stencil in a certain place, if there was a dead space that didn't have very much interest, you could grab out those same stencils you created the masterboard with and come in and add exactly where you think it needs it. So it's never too late to come back and tweak it. Also, sometimes in the where I decided to put the sentiment or the bird was on spaces and things that I didn't particularly like. You can always cover them up. I am so happy with how this turned out. And I definitely will be making more mini zines because it is so cute. Here I've grabbed my Sakura Glaze pen. I love this pen. You've heard me say that before. It is so user friendly and it's permanent. And I'm just outlining the sentiments. And it's just adding, it's just part of the finishing process. And I'm drying it because before I go to the next page, I don't want to smudge. And then I'm outlining each of the pages. And it's kind of a sketchy outline. So there it is, 5 by 7, the full page. And so each page is half of that. It would be 3.5 by 5, which is a very cute size. So there is the book. I'm loving it. And then I realized that you can stand it up like this. It could be on a dresser and it could be standing up like that. And then each day you can just turn it to another section and see it. So right away I have some close-ups of the page and then as they are standing. I think this is super cute. I hope you give this a try using whatever you have in your stash. Thanks so much for watching. Leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, follow me on Instagram @CreativeKatie. Bye.